Welcome back, everybody. Tim Baghurst joining you with the International Racquetball Federation as we join you at 0 serving 3. Galicia from Guatemala serving against Carlos Keller. Beautiful serve from Garcia, and he claims the first point. That might settle him down a little bit. 1 serving 3. Keller, the Pan American champion from earlier this year, but Galicia, as you can see, can certainly play. And I'm joined by a special guest today, Luc Senange, Secretary General of the International Federation. Luc, thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you very much, Tim.
It's a real treat to have you on the air, and I think a lot of people maybe not familiar with international racquetball don't really know what you actually do, what your job entails, and how you're involved in international racquetball. Maybe you can explain that first.
Basically, the International Racquetball Federation is recognized by the International Olympic Committee as the governing body of racquetball on the worldwide stage. And I am more or less, you might want to call in U.S. terms, the CEO of International Racquetball Federation. And, you know, it's my responsibility to handle the day-to-day operations and to handle a lot of the admin when it comes to major events and so on.
So you said IOC recognized.
Yes.
What does that actually mean?
The IOC recognized sports, there's approximately 33 of them that have been recognized by the IOC that they can become part of the Olympic program based upon a pretty complex situation and requirements. But they have recognized us in 1985 that racquetball is popular, it's worldwide, and that it could be included in future Olympic Games.
Now, the IRF is involved in a lot of multi-sport events. Okay, we're not in the Olympics. We could be, as you just described. We meet the qualifications, but what other events do the IRF participate in that give us that kind of global exposure?
We're very strong in the Americas, and we are a full medal sport in all of the continental games in the Americas that are under the sponsorship of the International Olympic League, such as Central American Caribbean Games, Central American Games, South American Games, and probably the highest of all, the Pan American Games. And each one is a multi-international sports competition, and anywhere from 5,000 to 7,000 athletes, and anywhere from 28 sports to 36 sports. And racquetball was first included in the Central American Caribbean Games in 1990, and that was our big move forward.
We also, Pan Am Games next year in Lima, Peru, will be there, of course. But the World Games as well is something that the IRF are involved in, and that's going to be in the United States in a couple of years.
World Games is kind of interesting that it was founded in 1981. And the first World Games were in Santa Clara, California, and racquetball was one of about 10 sports that were full medal sports in that particular. And it was originally designed to give international competition to non-Olympic sports that were growing and developing worldwide. And so we were a charter member of World Games. And heading into Birmingham in 2021, this will be one of the key evaluating events that the IOC will use to see if any of the sports that are there will have the opportunity to participate in 2028. Because 2024 will already be designated what sports are going in.
Okay, so let's just back up a second because we're talking about the Olympics in LA in 2028. The Olympics now have rules where local organizing committees can choose sports that can be included in that Olympics, and that's what you're referring to there in terms of you know, the USOC, United States Olympic Committee, can come in, look at racquetball at the World Games, and kind of make a judgment on whether this should be in the Olympics for 2028?
That's correct. And the IOC has some problems with sports that are not widely practiced internationally and are extremely, extremely expensive. And, you know, such as the equestrians, kayaking, and so on. Those venues cost, in some cases, almost $40 to $50 million, and they're only utilized in that short period of time of approximately 8 or 9 days. Racquetball, aside from being very, very popular, lends itself to approximately, we're looking at maybe $200,000 investment in Los Angeles. But again, this really comes down to, I would call it politics, but it is politics, because all of the Olympic sports want to continue to be in the games, and they want to expand their disciplines because their old disciplines are not as popular as some of their new disciplines. And so there's a trade-off. And once you're in, it's pretty hard to be out. And so the pressures from such things as archery to include other disciplines, cycling, you can see what's going on with BMX, road cycling, velodrome, and so on. Those are all different disciplines, and coming down to, they all affect whether a sport can get in or can't get in from the outside.
And I think it's fair to say it's a very competitive situation. It's not just, well, let's just open it up to, you know, 70 sports that are out there.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to get in, and it requires a demonstration that you're going to be deserving of that to some extent.
Yep. And I don't think a lot of people really understand the full implications of what happens to a federation when their sport is included in the Olympic Games. A good example is in the United States, back when racquetball became a full medal sport in the Pan American Games, it was treated as an equal national governing body. And for about a 7-year period, the USOC was giving to the U.S. Racquetball Federation almost $500,000 a year for development. In racquetball, any kind of a sponsorship on that level is amazing. And this went on for a while, but somehow, basically what happened, the athletes on the Olympic level said, why are we giving this to non-Olympic sports? And the political issues were such that racquetball didn't respond to it. And today, basically they're covered under as an NGB, but get very, very little funding.
Now, you were, or still are, the first of International Racquetball as General Secretary. You've been there from the inception, and you've also seen changes in numbers, growth around the world, declines, upswings. What's the current situation of racquetball globally, and how have you seen that change?
One of the things that is a hindrance to us on growth is facilities. You know, we go with a 20 by 40. That's the one that the size court that that has become our competitive level. Of course, there's others. There's the RACKET, which is out of Europe, and it's played on squash courts, and what's actually developing in Egypt and Jordan and so on, the outdoor game. But we've seen a real fast growth in the early years in Europe and Asia and so on, and then as time went on, other sports interfered and started taking some of our players, and of course the same thing is happening in the United States with facilities. But we're very encouraged that the number right now, approximately 30 National Olympic Committees support national teams. And whether it's in the Central American Games or World Games or any one of those, they may be selective and not support for World Championships, but they support the multi-medal sports competitions.
Now, a lot of people, or maybe a lot, but some people may have a perception that the international governing body of racquetball gets a lot of funding from somewhere, and you know, we as a federation are just rolling in it, and you know, not divvying it out, not giving it out the way we should. But maybe you could set the record straight and just kind of explain, where does the IRF get their money, and how do they use it in general?
Well, basically, Tim, a decision was made about 4 years ago, maybe a little bit less, but we looked at our game, and we had very, very limited sponsorship. It is very limited when you only have basically 2 events a year that you can capitalize on. And we looked at the overall professionalism of the game and how can you possibly attract sponsors, okay, and attract new countries and so on to the sport. It's got to be taken to a higher level on professionalism. And the first step was to make the presentation of the sport workable. And if you take what basically you're doing, and then we move to the Pablo type of broadcasting and streaming, from 4 years ago to today, it's a totally different product. It's something that we can be proud of. We have monitors. We have, you know, probably the other biggest thing is we said, how can we, 4 or 5 years ago, continue to showcase the sport with the players refereeing? And we made a large commitment financially to bring in the referees and staff to run this on a pause, not just like a weekend tournament. And so to answer your question on funding, we went to the various federations and we said, okay, we want to increase the entry cost from what it was at that time to a higher level. And other than, I think as Waldo talked about a bid fee, we cover all the other expenses of the referees coming in and their shirts and that aspect of it, along with the broadcasting. So right now we have a limited amount of sponsorship, but we think we're bringing the sport to a level now that we can sell the product on the market. And I'm not sure I answered your question exactly, but we have a very, very limited budget. And I would say it's basically 90%, 95% volunteers.
Yeah, so just to clarify, we spoke to the IRF president last night, Osvaldo Maggi, and talked about how somebody could run a tournament, an IRF-sanctioned tournament, and he basically said you're looking at raising $20,000 and providing 14 rooms, hotel rooms for staff and referees to come in, and the IRF covers everything else. And I think the reason behind that is that the IRF wants to promote tournaments and racquetball, as opposed to let's use this as a massive fundraising effort and make money from tournaments.
Yeah, and I think that our board, which is made up of various presidents from around the world, have the vision of what we all want it to be. And, you know, we're not just talking Olympics, we're not talking, we want to be able to showcase these athletes like the ones you're just watching now. You know, not in our little tiny market, but something in a much broader scope. And we hope, as this whole thing develops with the Olympic Channel, you know, they're sitting on, what, maybe 6.5, 7 million viewers, subscribers, not viewers, subscribers. And, you know, we think our athletes are at the same level as basically any in the Olympic sports. And that's a vision we have, and that's an expectation we have in the future.
So if we look at these tournaments, we obviously we talked about all the multi-sport events. We've talked about the fact that we have the World Championships, the Pan Am Championships, Asian Championships, and so on. One of the things we haven't mentioned, and you're a participant in, is the Senior World Championships. Tell us a little bit about that, because I think there's people out there who don't really know too much about the World Seniors, but should probably come. I think it's a great event.
Well, this was created in, the first one was like 1986. In that time it was a regional, and then it became the World Seniors. And the World Seniors is a world championship for those players who have moved on from the open divisions.
The rest of us.
The rest of us. And it goes from ages 35 in 5-year increments, singles and doubles, men and women, up to age 95. And this year we have 4 in the 90-plus division. And
it's incredible.
What's interesting is I think last year there was about 160, and as of right now the entries are over 220. It's
wow.
We're saying to Gary, Gary, one of the reasons he isn't here is because of that kind of demand that suddenly that the World Seniors has taken on, which is 17 countries and over 220 athletes.
Including yourself and myself.
Yeah.
And one of the things that makes it special as well is it's not a single elimination event, it's a round robin. And so when you go, you're guaranteed a lot of matches and a lot of fun meeting different people from different countries and spending time together inside and outside of the court.
Exactly. And the USRA has a similar type of event, and it's called the National Masters. And a lot of them who play in National Masters within the U.S. move on during the year and play in the World Seniors. And of course we also have the Juniors, and Juniors is held every year, and there's large numbers that come and compete. We start at age 10 and two-year increments up to age 18 with 2 cups. One cup is the World Cup and the other is the Aspera Cup. And all of our federations have playoffs, qualifying, and again, you're talking about parents who have made a large commitment to the sport. They have, what would you say, Tim, 10 different sports that they could guide their child into.
Oh, yeah.
And it's absolutely critical that we as a sport and as a federation showcase and give them a good, high-quality product that they can feel that their child's future has something really on the Olympic level or whatever level it might be at. And, again, no player referees. We bring the referees, 23 of them, and they're really worked hard, but every one of them also sees what the future's going to be through using that process.
And we've talked actually about the referees and the fact that many of them are professional players, or at least elite level players, and it certainly helps keep these matches on course, allows them to finish on time, and we really have a very efficient tournament. It goes very quickly. We get done when we're supposed to, and we see this terrific entertainment. One of the things that you mentioned was the juniors program, and racquetball is one of those sports where athleticism shows and it can transfer to other sports. And so what needs to happen for racquetball to keep those players who go through the juniors and then maybe are attracted to a basketball team or an ice hockey team or a tennis team, because they're athletic. They've learned that speed and that hand-eye coordination and that footwork on a racquetball court. How do we keep them in the sport?
There's a lot of serious peer pressure coming from coaches who, let's say as a football team, soccer team, and they see the level of this athlete and he's playing some sport that he can't get recognition in high school out of. And this is left to the federations of introducing the sport and following it up within these areas. And probably, Tim, in what we're trying to do, okay, is make sure that the parents see that there's a future for their child to compete in and compete on a level, and they get the recognition and just the overall aspect of it, that they can be proud that their child plays in something. It's not just because their father played there or their mother played and they're introduced to it. That was a big part of the junior in the past. But this is beginning to change, especially with the the teams outside the United States, because these are their future for competitions in Central America and all those games. And many of our referees came up through the junior program, played in the juniors, and now they're out of the open and they're coming back. And as you know from refereeing, one of the things that we have found is it almost takes an open player to referee, not someone who might know the rules, but be able to follow the ball at this level. It really, and one of the things that happens when you have a person of that level, okay, there's respect from the players on what the calls are. Now, if it was me down there, or I don't know, well, use me as an example, and I made a bad call, okay, because I couldn't see it, okay, not because I didn't know the rules, but I couldn't follow the ball. You lose the respect that the players have.
Well, Luc St-Ange, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate all that you have done and are doing for international racquetball. Of course, if you want more information about holding tournaments, send us a message through Facebook, their email on our website. And of course, if you're interested in supporting international racquetball, we should mention that in the United States, IRF is a 501c3. A nonprofit, and so donations can be tax deductible as well. If you don't want to sponsor the IRF, you can simply make a donation.
Yep, definitely. And we now have a fundraising team, and it's made up of very, very key people in the sport, and it's beginning to show promise. Thank you.
Well, my thanks to Luc St-Ange. We're going to return back to this match, which of course has been full of action, but dominated primarily by the athleticism and just control of Carlos Keller for Bolivia. Galicia, though, fighting hard in game 2. He's at 4 serving 5. Well, you can see why Carlos Keller is the Pan Am champion. Flings his body around the court, but he also does something with it when he jumps or dives. He's very creative. His power is deceptive. A lot of people think he doesn't hit the ball hard, but he really does. Very lanky, covers a lot of court. Really a special player. Galicia, though, I mean, let's not take anything away from him. He's really improved the last year or so. Did very credible in the Pan Am Championships, got some good wins there, but he's coming up against somebody who will certainly or should be a contender for this title in Carlos Keller. Carlos Keller is also joined by Conrado Moscoso, his teammate, also competing in singles. Moscoso was a semifinalist 2 years ago. He'll be looking to go better this year. These two are very, very talented. Timeout on the court by Galicia. Galicia's done well so far. This is to determine top seed going into the elimination bracket on Wednesday. Get a day off tomorrow. I know a lot of the players and coaches and even staff will be traveling around Costa Rica to see many of the sites here. It's a tremendous country full of diversity in wildlife, also several volcanoes, some active. We're in San Jose, the capital, at the Indoor Club. Day 3. Keller playing very well this morning. Galicia, have to say, he's playing well also, but I would put Keller as a little bit more athletic, gets a few extra balls back, makes Galicia hit one more shot. Another point for Keller. Just, what do you say? So flexible. Does something with the ball every time. No free points. I mean, even that, just to get another ball back and so close on that second effort. Side out Galicia. Amazing athleticism from Keller. Just a great example of the difference. Galicia getting to the ball, but just popping it up for Keller to put away. Nine serving 4. If you're just joining us, this is match number 2 today. Earlier we saw Guatemala's Rodriguez win in a tiebreaker against Tiki from Ireland in women's singles. And we have more matches coming up today, several more in fact. After this, we'll take a short break unless this extends on before looking at men's singles, Acuna versus Murphy. Costa Rica, Ireland. That'll be a full house. Costa Ricans do love their racquetball. Then women's singles, Salas from Mexico, Munoz, Chile. That should be a great match. Men's doubles after that, Colombia, Costa Rica. Both of those teams have lost one. We saw Costa Rica last night, a very dramatic match against Argentina. Then women's doubles, USA, Korea, and we finish with Mexico versus Japan in men's doubles. Love it from Keller. Beautiful. Look at how he ran up to hit that shot. Great effort from him. Beautiful technique. difficult shot. Four points away, Keller. 11-5. 11-5. Make that 12. He smells it. He knows he's close. 12 serving 5 is the score. Snap of the wrist from Keller. Poor return from Galicia. I feel that Galicia is just a little flat right now. Two bounces called. Keller doesn't like it. I think it's the correct call. Thank you to all who've joined us. You're watching a round robin match. Carlos Keller, Edwin Galicia. Rare skip from Keller. Point for Guatemala. Two bounces called by Galicia. That's good to see. Appreciate the fair play from him. Another mistake from Keller. He's very expressive when he makes mistakes. You can tell when he's made a mistake. His teammate Moscoso looking on, along with Moscoso's father. Regulars at international events. A big skip from Galicia that time. Gives Keller a side out. Still 13-6. Keller flings his body across the court. It's amazing he doesn't get hurt. He really commits himself in these rallies. It's just the way he plays. In fact, we have many of his matches on our YouTube channel. Just go to YouTube and look for International Racquetball Federation. We have hundreds of matches over the years. Keller is featured in several of those. Galicia also. Also featured is our official, Alejandro Morales. He's officiated many events for the IRF. We appreciate all his work. Full-time in Racquetball Canada, working for Alberta Racquetball now. the call. Side out's the call. I have to agree, Galicia was directly in the way of Keller. Keller hit Galicia. Wet ball. Match point. 14-6. There's the match, everybody. Carlos Keller, fairly routine, but played extremely well, it has to be said, against Guatemalan Edwin Galicia. So Keller wins it 15-7, 15-6.